You're about to listen to part 2 of Doug Carrion from Descendents and Dag Nasty. And my favorite part of episode 1 was where Doug said he thought that Jeff Nelson from Minor Threat invented the gallop, the kind of gallopy trot drum beat, which is really interesting. Never thought about that style of drumming of hardcore music back then, if he was the first to do that style. And then went back and listened to it, and it does sound like a galloping, like a trotting thing. It was a really cool point. I never thought about that, and if he was the originator or not. Maybe one day I'll have him on my podcast. Hey, Jeff, will you be on my podcast? And we can talk about that, if you even thought about that. Yeah, it was great. So far, so good. The feedback for episode 1 has been wonderful. People say I have found my match of somebody who can talk just as fast as I can. I hope you guys enjoyed this part 2. Next week, we are having somebody else on the podcast. I'm not telling you. Yeah, I'm keeping this moving with this kind of theme. The DC, the Dag Nasties, this vibe right now. I'm enjoying this vibe. And then I still have to release a lot more. But we're on quarantine, there's no rush, right? Every Monday, tune in. Thanks for your support. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for commenting. Thanks for turning people on to this podcast. I really, really appreciate it. And thank you, Doug, for your time, man. It was like 4.5 hours of your time. I learned a lot about you, all the other bands you were in. And yeah, I appreciate everything you've contributed to music. I'm sure the people listening do as well. That's why they're listening to it. But yeah, I forgot what we talked about in part 2, actually. I have to listen to that. We already covered so much already in part 1. Thanks again for subscribing. Thanks, you guys. Stay safe. Stay home. See you soon. All right, so now we're going back. Now we're going back to Wig Out, on the Wig Out tour.
Right.
How was it like? People showing up to those shows? Were they
big cities? Yes. Small towns? No.
And were people bummed on the sound of the new?
No, because at that point it wasn't such a far step.
Yeah.
Right. It wasn't such a far step. It wasn't as big of a leap. So people could kind of like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, also keep in mind, I speak with people on the West Coast that that never saw Dave or Sean. So the only Dag singer they ever know is Peter Kortner. So to them, it's normal.
Totally.
And then also it's at a time too where people are kind of more open to ideas.
Totally.
And the way you learn about music is you go to the show.
Yeah.
And then you go, I didn't like the band, or I like the band.
Totally.
So people were really like kind of intrigued at the idea, and then the band was really good and could deliver a show. And so I think there were a lot more thumbs ups than thumbs downs.
Yeah.
But you're playing. Yes, in a big city there were people. You go into the small markets, very, very challenging, lonely, sleepy Tuesdays.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Really weird.
Did you guys tour on that record for a while?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did many cycles on that one. At the time, we had the Hermosa Beach House camp, and then we had like the DC Dag House camp, and so we kind of jumped between both spaces and just zigzagged, and we would do the East Coast for a bit, the West Coast for a bit, and then do like a lap in the middle.
Yeah.
That was like usually the summers, and that's how that went. And it was busy. It's very, very busy.
Yeah.
Very busy.
And was that a bigger band that you were in after Descendents, or the same kind of level of back then?
I'm gonna go with it's about the same level. Yeah, maybe the same level.
Yeah.
Maybe the same level. Like maybe the same. I don't know. They're that's so weird because sometimes you go into a market like let's say like Dag would do better in Boston than Descendents did in Boston, but maybe that's because Dag was more of an East Coast band.
Gotcha.
Okay. Yet Descendents did okay in Boston, but at the time you're not talking about like, we'd play the Rat, and the Rat's what, 400 or 500 people? Yeah. Is that what that space is? And Descendents would do okay. It wouldn't be bad.
Yeah.
Where Dag would do it, and it would be like kind of full. And then there are places where Descendents would crush, and Dag would be not happening.
Yeah.
So I think regionally, there's so many factors that tie into that. Yeah. It's not an easy. That's not an easy thing. You're now it's so different because you could do a show and you're competing with 5 other shows that night.
Yeah.
You know, so super different. But
Yeah,
I think
true.
they were maybe about the same. I
Yeah.
think they were maybe about the same, but there are some markets where one would have been more weighted and did more
Yeah.
people than others. About the same.
Did your folks come out and your family come out and see all the bands you were in?
My pops would come out. My dad lived in Memphis,
Okay.
and so when Descendents would go through there, yes. Dag would go through there, yes. My mom, not so much until later.
Okay.
And then yeah, like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, sometimes. But it's pretty weird. Sometimes you have to wonder, like, is it safe to bring people out
Yeah.
to shows?
That's true.
Remember in Opposite Land, you can't really control the environment.
That's true.
You know what I mean? It's a very, very different context.
Good point.
Shows at that time were not necessarily safe.
Yeah, that's what Ernie told me a couple weeks ago from Token Entity. He didn't want to bring his family out to that.
You know what I
anymore.
mean? So
Yeah.
so
Good point.
shows were not safe. Like, example, and I don't say it in a throwing anybody under the bus. Like, I've seen people at shows get shot out of their shoes. I've seen people get stabbed. I've seen huge plate glasses broken over people. So,
Wow.
it's like, the shows were not safe at all. Like, that'd be the last place you wanted to, like, bring your
point.
mom. You
Yeah.
kidding? I can't protect her in this freaking chaos. Head for the back. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
that's really
totally.
true.
It's Opposite Land.
I don't think about it now. Like, my mom came and see me
Right.
in the '90s. It's way different in the '80s.
Totally different. It was man, come on. And now you're gonna go to, like, okay, we'll just talk about context of Southern California. Okay, Southern California, punk shows were fucking gnarly, and they were nonstop fights,
Gangs, all
and it
kinds
was
of shit.
nuts, really uncool, nuts,
Scary.
and it was scary. And at the same time, the LA Police Department would train the riot squad on the punk shows. So a gazillion shows that I went to, you'd come out and be like, the riot squad would be just cracking heads. And
Holy shit.
everybody got their ass kicked coming out of Olympic Auditorium or stuff like that.
I heard stories
You know what I mean?
about that.
Just insane.
Yeah.
So, that's again, I came from Opposite Land.
Yeah.
I've been in the venue when the cops shot the tear gas at the dead Kennedys.
Holy shit.
And you're like, holy shit. And you're running for your life.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my punk world.
Fuck.
My punk world is like, okay, here's a dumb story of Fletcher. And that you've seen the flyer of the Bad Brains and Bad Religion with the skull thing playing Ukrainian Culture Center on Melrose.
Yeah.
Great. So,
Legendary.
okay, great. Legendary show. So here's the story with that one. We're talking about the violence in the world. For whatever reason, the venue sold more tickets than there was capacity. So you have many people outside that had paid for tickets that ain't getting in, and they're fucking pissed.
As I would be.
So back in those days, the term rush the door or rush the bouncer meant exactly what it was, where a mob of people would try to go in the venue and break the door down and beat up all the bouncers and level the place. Okay. So very different. Fletcher and I had gone up to the show, and it's sold out. They're not letting people in.
Yeah.
It's already like helicopters and chaos. Just fucking chaos. And I had attempted 2 times to get through the door with the rush the door thing.
Yeah.
Unsuccessfully. So now I bail back to the van. Fletcher goes back, and Fletcher, for being a big guy, was always really good at sneaking in like a vent. And he could sneak in a vent or through the kitchen or just some weird, like, he'd just figure out a way to sneak in the shows.
Yeah.
Like crazy. So he's on the roof of the Ukrainian Culture Center trying to figure out how to get in. And I'm hanging out with Hank in the van,
Okay.
and the cops
Is
are
this
beating.
Hank?
It's this Hank, not Hank as in Henry Rollins. It's Hank Jacobson, who's the drummer for Con and drummer, Hermosa Beach folklore punker guy, still doing well playing in punk bands. And so we're hanging out, and riot squad and the cops are beating everybody up, and there's a bang on the door, and the door swings open, and it's El Duce from the Mentors.
Holy shit.
And so El Duce's like, dude, is it okay if I hang out in here? Cause it's fucking a little crazy out there. And we're like, holy shit, it's El Duce. Come on in. And so he comes in, and we kind of talked shop forever until the show ended. And so that show I spent sitting in a van talking to El Duce because I was hiding from the police.
Fucking amazing, man.
You know,
That's
like that.
Crazy.
True story. So anyway, going back to the show. No, I didn't bring my mom to the punk shows. No, because it was not very safe.
Yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't do that. You know, it's like a survival thing.
Yeah.
That's more like a survival thing.
I think about when my mom comes see me in the 90s is way
Right.
different.
And now I'm going to segue back over to like before you were talking about Token Entry and talk about like punker bands. And so the first few times that I played CBGBs, even with Dag Nasty playing CBGBs, I was actually intrigued when guys that were more like the Harleys of the world and more like known for like inner city thuggery would like come out to see like a Beach Boys chainsaw pop band or a emo core trying to guitar jangly thing, you know what I mean?
The New York dudes love that, man.
Isn't that a trip? And I was always like, wow, that's so weird, but
that's really cool. And I was going to bring this up too, and now I have to bring it up, is what Kevin Seconds told me that on the New Wind tour, everywhere was getting like a lukewarm reception until they got to the East Coast, and people loved the New Wind record and CBGBs, and he was kind of nervous and didn't know what to expect because he loved the East Coast, and that's where it got the best response.
Interesting.
The melody stuff.
Yeah. No. Well, that's
interesting. Maybe because we're sick of the same old. I don't know.
Well, now I'm gonna go with I'm gonna do a double story here. So here you go, double story. So, Descendents, The Farm in San Francisco, 7 Seconds, and Doggy Style.
Sick.
On the same bill.
Great.
Okay, so I knew of 7 Seconds because I read it on Flipside magazine, and I'm like, holy shit. That's the guys with the makeup, or they do like the baseball thing under the eyes. That's so cool.
So cool.
Now, at that time, Kevin was on point at being able to totally work a room. And it was the first time that I had heard big sing-alongs like that. And he's very, very good at it. Amazing. And it was like, holy shit, that guy's got it down. Now, the opposite to that is Brad X.
Okay.
And Brad X and his weird Doggy Style thing. And Brad X walks up onto a all ages show with a 6-pack of beer, and he doesn't drink. And he says, stage dive contest. And now he's going to do a stage dive contest, and the winner wins a 6-pack.
Wow.
And so,
and he's straight edge. That's crazy.
Yeah. And it was just, I mean, people flying off the rafters. Crazy. And the barn was like, I don't know if you've ever been in the barn. The barn was like it's like a big room. Yeah. A big friggin' room. But anyway, that's that. Wow. One of my that was the first time that I'd seen 7 Seconds and Kevin really rock a crowd, and you go, oh shit, that guy's fucking, he's the man. He's like the man. Yeah. Great sing-alongs, people so happy. You know,
so posy, man.
And so great, so great. And then we did later, down the timeline. Like I remember doing a show with Dag Nasty and 7 Seconds in, I want to say Tampa.
Yeah.
Same thing, just like phenomenal, great.
Yeah.
His band was phenomenal. Just a very commanding front guy that really knew how to get the soccer chant going. Mm-hmm. Really cool.
Yeah, and like his songs, like Not Just Boys Fun, and a lot of the songs he was singing about trust.
It's pretty bitchin'.
Yeah, dude,
pretty cool.
Nobody was singing about stuff like that back then either.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Yeah, he certainly had locked into a more positive flip on things.
Yeah,
a pretty positive flip, and I think people identified with it. It was cool. It was super fun to see. Yeah, super fun to see.
Great band. I want to talk about Enjoy Record because That was like the first record, I think, where they introduced the farting on the records and stuff, and like a different level of
chaos.
Chaos, yeah. I was talking to Milo about that too. That record's like one of the not experimental, but very different for a lot of the
right. Well,
discography of that band.
I think that.
But I love that record.
It's a great record. It's a great record, and it's a very different record in that like the way I approach the bass is very different than. Enjoy was actually recorded twice. First time we recorded it, and we recorded it and didn't really like the way it had tracked.
Got you.
And so we went and toured the songs live and then came back and recorded it again. So there are songs that like Doug Rides a Skateboard and songs like that come out on weird like bootleggy things. That was the first session.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's where that was. But I think that remember before at the beginning of the conversation where I was talking about being able to embrace things that were more angular, whether it's the Birthday Party or Gang of Four, and I think that was maybe a little of that in that space.
Okay.
Also, keep in mind that there were a lot of bands at that point that were trying to figure out like, are we going to be metal? So there's that crossover thing where some of them did. Okay, here's an example. Gangrene.
Yeah.
You go, fuck, I fucking love the early stuff. And then there was a point where you go, wow, the second batch is like, that's pretty metal. You know what I mean? That'd be a pretty metal, metal.
Another Wasted Night.
Slapshot might be an example where it's like you see it kind of go from one thing over to more like people embracing with full horns.
Yeah.
And so that I think that record was. I think the Enjoy.
SSD or DOS did that too.
SSD, sure.
That's right.
Sure.
And then New York band's trying to get more metal vibes.
Right, so. Back to the Descendents record. So that record, I think, was a very experimental record in that there was pop songs, things that were like, if you listen to, let's say, Sour Grapes, for example, really pulls from Rebel Yell. Super straight ahead kick and snare. Which is very different from Bill's ability to play. Like, he can play incredibly complex kick drum patterns.
Yeah.
And yet he's opting to now play something super straight. So that comes from like Rebel Yell. And that it's clocking that. Wow. So I think, also there's no career in punk rock. Yep. So it doesn't matter whether you do a record about, the migration patterns of the dung beetle. Nobody cares. You're just doing your own records. It's like
you try different things. Yeah,
you try different things, and I think that was an incredibly experimental record.
Yeah,
super experimental record, and some of it continued to track. Like a line that they continued. Some of it they didn't want to circle back on. Some of it is is it like smart to do those things? Even
the All was really. Record was really like interesting too. The playing on
very well you get it's interesting because you when you start to get more proficient on your instrument and you can play more complex, complicated things, is that the right approach? That's the big question. Or to stick with something and trying to figure out how to do what you do, but to keep people engaged. So, right, there's that. Sometimes you see guitar players, maybe let's say like a guitar prodigy person that's just, I don't know, noodling. Yeah. And for you, you're like, what is it? It's like 8 hours of guitar solos. Yet there's this niche of people that are like that. He's their guy, whether it's Adrian Belew or Robert Fripp or Yngwie Malmsteen or whatever, that's something that when you're working out a batch of songs, here's where we are right now in this time. This is what is coming out of my head, and this is what we're jamming.
We put it out,
and here we go. And you,
I love that though.
That's it.
There's like pure songwriting. Not
it is.
About
there's
industry, none of that. There was no industry anyway. Just putting it out.
Dude, Descendents. Remember Opposite Land? Descendents aren't. Well, there's no like look at like look at Milo. Like, does Milo look like a rock guy? Does he look like fucking, some like rock dude?
Yeah.
No. So you're in opposite land.
Yeah.
He's a scientist. He's writing, everybody, great songwriters, great lyricists, but he's coming at it in a totally different angle. So if you're trying to like, we're going to build a big record and we're going to be on MTV. It's like, well, you ain't going to do it with that fucking band because those guys are crazy. They're like, they're not interested in like a uniform or dressing a certain way or whatever. It's just like, hear the songs and that.
Milo's like, we were nerds. You say, well, I was a nerd. Just straight up.
And I'm the first to say it's like, that's true. And there were times where before practice, we'd have to pick him up and he'd be working at the Plasma Center. Like he's like that guy. So that's legit. Real. That's not fake. It's real. Yeah. But somewhere in his brain, there's also this guy that's can sing heartbreaking love songs or pissed off at something or whatever, and it's like that comes through.
He said to me too, like he wasn't social. He was like a shy guy, but when he came on stage, became a different side of him.
Yes.
Himself.
So when I we'll go back over to Milo. So my knowing Milo was more like he was a runner in high school.
Okay.
He's a runner.
That's right. Yeah.
He's a runner, and so I would see him and be like at the traffic light at Pacific Coast Highway in Artesia, and he'd be jogging in place waiting for the light to change.
That's crazy.
And you just go, oh, there's the runner guy. And it wasn't until later that it clocked to see him sing. And then when you saw him sing, you're like, oh my God, that's like a nerdy scientist guy that really fucking leans in on songs and can sing. And it's not like, he has a certain genuine timbre to how he attacks a vocal.
Yeah.
And there's, again, I delicately use the word pure. It's just like, it's super sincere.
100%.
That's just super sincere.
You can feel it.
Yeah, just super sincere. This sucks and and that's what it was. That's what it was. And so that was so going back to that record, super experimental record, funny, crazy. You can't say, in retrospect, like, should you have written another batch of songs? Do you do that? I don't even know. I'm looking through the windshield going forward. I'm not looking in the rear view mirror. I can't even undo that.
Yeah.
That's like here's where we are. This is the batch of songs. It's very Black Flag in a way, where it's like, here's the batch of songs. Ba-boom. They go out there. Some people are going to get it. Some people are going to be in on it.
That's all matters.
That's it.
So put some farts on there because he always was a person that had flatulence.
Yeah, that's a whole nother. It's a whole nother. I think that's a whole nother world of just like. No, it's like doing something like that might be a career killer, right? And at the same time, it was super on board that there is no career in punk rock. Yeah. Nobody cares. It's a weird, niche-y, strange thing. Yeah. You just do it because you think it's funny.
I wonder how many records would sound like that if it never changed and never was going to be a career for punk rock. Punk rock was always going to be something that people couldn't do as a career. I wonder how that would have changed the sounds of some of the amazing records that came out after that. If there wasn't like a goal to do it as a career and do it for your future and just put him out because you made him pure out of pure sincerity and passion for the music and just put it out there with no goals whatsoever. I wonder if the records would have a different sound to them if punk never broke, I guess. I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, it also opens the question of where people are right now with technology and being able to record their own music and how it's filtering out there. Yeah. On that timeline, things that might be super popular in a space, YouTube or some kind of space where you're like, really, I don't get it. That's interesting. I think that in the punk world, there was no corporate structure to it.
No.
So it's opposite land. It's the
Yeah.
opposite of how you see things. There's no Live Nation and shit like that.
No.
It's totally different.
I know. If anything, it was just Golden Voice.
And
that was the very early beginnings of that.
And
those are
I'm gonna say something without throwing anybody under the bus and just say Golden Voice. And then I'm gonna look at you and say, you know what Gary did, right? And then for those of you, and I don't say it, Gary Tovar, I love you. You're a rock star. Thank you for doing all those shows. Gary did other things at those shows too.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And everybody's got to do their research, and you go, gnarly. It's fucking gnarly.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You know,
Okay.
hustling.
I'm looking into it. Yeah.
You go hustling, but because there's no, it's weird and wacky and strange and crazy. You know, it's like, again, what you're worried about the 8 people in Gainesville?
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Just do what you think is cool.
Let's get to Field Day.
Okay.
Wait. All Ages show was.
Yes.
Was that before?
No, it's right in that spot.
Yeah, that's an incredible 7-inch, man.
Insane.
That's an incredible 7-inch.
Insane. So okay, so we'll
and that sounds so. I guess it's more the Wig Out tempo than it is Field Day for sure. On that more vibe.
Right. So I'll do you want me to tell you how we got to
that?
that?
Yeah, that kind of came out of nowhere for me when I first came. I was like,
okay,
oh,
so here's where we go. So Wig Out's going, the band's touring, everything's going great. All of a sudden, Colin doesn't really want to. Oh, I'm going to backstep a little bit.
Please.
Remember before where I was talking about like how there's different islands and tribes of the punk rock world?
Yeah.
The DC people hated me. They hated me because the DC people sometimes don't like to do things that are like. They do things more like Revolution Summer where it's doing shows for your friends, not to make money.
Yeah.
So they clocked me as a guy that was almost like a carpetbagger or something.
Okay.
Something very, very different. So I was hated in the DC culture because I was like, he's the guy that's trying to steer Brian away from the da-da-da-da. So it's a very different world. Okay? Different world.
Taking our guy
Opposite land.
Yeah.
Opposite. Well, not only that, I wasn't a DC guy.
Yep.
So DC, and I love the DC, the music that came out of DC, but DC, it's known that its coolness is what ended up killing it.
Got you.
Meaning that they started to get, the first 20 people that were into punk rock in DC, and then they only wanted to keep playing for those 20 people. Mm-hmm. But the kids in the suburbs, they were bummed. So they were bummed that those people were coming.
Okay.
They didn't want to have anything to do with that. And so I'm from a whole different coast.
Yes.
Holy shit. I'm not part of their first 20 people to, I don't know, go see the Ramones or whatever. I didn't, it wasn't me. Yeah. So Wig Out is doing well. It's on Discord. It was great. Yeah. Ian did it. Don did it. They have their own unique way of recording, which is cool. Colin is going to tap out. Okay, so he's tapping out. He doesn't want to do drums anymore. Okay, so Colin Sears is tapping out. And so Dag finds themselves with no drummer. And so we're starting to figure out, well, one, how are we going to do this? And then two, what's the best way to approach it? And so we're kind of auditioning drummers, I guess, for lack of a better word. We're auditioning drummers. I'll go through this story kind of quick. So we're auditioning drummers, and we're not finding somebody that can kind of keep up with where Brian and I want to go.
Yep.
It's not happening. So one day Peter calls me, and he's like, Doug, I've got the guy. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, I got the drummer guy. Great. So he sends me, I'm going, whoa, has he been in a band? Not in a punk band. I'm like, oh, okay. He's like, trust me, he's the guy. Okay. So Peter sends me up to this house, gives me an address, sends me up to this house in Tacoma Park, which is this woody kind of area, right? And I go up and it's this big, almost like gothic-y kind of house. I go on the front door, nobody answers. 10 minutes go by. In my mind, I'm thinking Peter has kind of done like a prank on me, and he's just sending me to some random house to bust my balls. I'm like, fucking Peter, goddamn. So, fucking Peter. So, 20 minutes goes by. Brian and I are looking at each other. Well, do we stay? Do we bounce? Who is this guy we're supposed to meet? About a half hour in, this beat up BMW pulls up, and this guy steps out, red hair, no shirt, just walking his dog. Hey, I'm Scott. Totally oblivious that he had made somebody else wait half an hour. So I'm like, what an asshole. Like, you made us wait for half an hour. You're an asshole. And he's like, has a totally different, like, hey, buddy, what's going on? A lot more like that. Totally different vibe. Very tranquil.
Okay.
Go, great. I go, hey, Scott, I'm Doug, whatever. So I'm kind of like, this as the steam isn't coming out of my ears anymore.
Yeah.
You know, Peter didn't set me up, right? So, okay, cool. He's like, yeah. I go, well, where do you play drums? He's like, I got drums set up at the house. Cool. Brian and I load in gear. And so it's the first time we're going to play with this guy. Boom. So, okay, Scott, have you ever been in a punk band? No. Do you know anything about punk rock? No. Well, hold on a second. How's that going to work? And so I was like, well, what do you do? And he's like, well, I play in a funk band and I travel. I go, yeah, well, tell me what you do. Scott at the time was so proficient at his instrument that he could play drums with one hand while drinking a Mai Tai. And so he would be like down in the Virgin Islands playing in a dance band, and he'd sleep on the beach and hang out in the ocean, and da-da-da. And then at night he worked. That was the guy. So I'm like, wow, kind of trippy. Okay, cool. So here's what I say to him. Great. Oh, okay, cool. Well, this gig is a punk gig. And da-da-da. And so I don't know where you're coming from. So I say to him, I start asking him if he can play this. Can you play this beat? I tap out a beat on my chest. He can play it. Can you play this beat? I tap out a beat. And all he would do is tilt his head sideways as if his ear was getting closer to the hi-hat, and he could play anything.
Damn.
Anything. So I would say to him, like, oh, can you play this? Yeah. And he'd look at me and say, well, which one's the kick? And you go, that one. Which one's the snare? That one. And he'd great. And he'd lean right into it. And he could play so well. And then he'd look at you and he'd laugh. He'd go, ha, that's kind of fun. Okay, so I say to him, holy shit. I'm like, dude, you're gnarly. And then here's the other thing. Scott, what else do you play? He's like, oh, I can play jazz, go-go, funk, anything. And you go, oh my God, hold on a second. And he can play like funk. Like he can play go-go. And so he's very influenced by that thing. Scott is more aligned with James Brown than he is aligned with the Bad Brains. Yeah. He's a funk guy. He is a funk, R&B, go-go swinging, red-haired white kid from Tacoma who can play. Yeah. So I say to him, well, dude, we're getting ready to move to Los Angeles. Do you want to come to Los Angeles with me? And he's like, when are you leaving? 10 days. He's like, yep. So on that conversation, he decides he's going to move in with me. And he's like, okay, cool. We moved the whole band to the West Coast, and now we're back at base camp Hermosa Beach. Just like that. And
Peter too.
Yeah. Wow. Everybody was back there at the beach, at the beach house. That was the hub. And so we're writing songs, and we're going to kind of go at the first batch, which would be Where All Edges Show, You're Mine, that batch of songs for that 7-inch. Okay. We were going to do the next recording on Giant Records. We decided that we're going to record this thing. We recorded up in Hollywood, but the recording for my ear is a little bit too polished. It's almost a little too metal the way it came out, but, and this will segue into Field Day. So we do it. Scott can crush and play anything that you could think of, he can play.
Okay.
Anything that you can play for him, like here. I mean, he's influenced by a whole different batch of people, which meant that our writing could go a little bit further. Yeah. So needless to say, he does the 7-inch, and that's how that 7-inch kind of comes out. And then the next batch of songs was the Field Day record. Sick. Now, the good thing was we had learned from our previous experience that recording in a really expensive studio was expensive and kind of a time waster.
Totally.
But I had tied it into, do you remember the band Love and Rockets?
Yeah.
So I remember reading an interview with Daniel Ash, and he was talking about doing a Love and Rockets record where they actually opted to go into a smaller studio where they would have more time.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, simple math. Okay, great. So we booked this studio called Pendragon in Redondo Beach.
Okay.
And it was a rehearsal studio and a recording studio, and we did pre-production for about 30 something days every day. Band rehearsals every day, and you grinding through it, and we recorded field day. Field day is done. It's even further out than it was like, can I say? And then the next stretch is Wig Out, and then there's like 8 stretches, and field day comes out, and it's like people hate it.
What was the influences for that?
Everything.
Okay.
Everything. So literally everything. Pop music, R&B, funk. Like, there's no career. You're in opposite land. Why not make the record you want to make?
Yeah.
There's what are you talking? Like, you're in opposite land.
Yeah.
There's like, come on, man. I could do... Look, you take an artist, let's say like Lou Reed or something, where he's like, he'd make a record that's just straight noise.
Yeah.
And you go, oh, well, that's interesting. He was on a major label. Now you take it all the way down to some punker band that's on an indie label. And it's like, you're going to do whatever you want. And we just were like, okay, cool. These are a batch of songs. Let's see how far we can explore different corners of the, for lack of a better word, pop market or thing. When the record came out, people like Gitter, and Gitter's the first person to say, would be like, what is this? This is fucking horrible. This is like a bad REM record. He hated it. He was mad. Is mad. And so we're like, oh shit, I don't know. Like, where you maybe like, I don't know, maybe where you like, maybe you're cooking and then you like put too much paprika in something, and you're like, was it too much? Did I go too far? Was that too much?
But you guys loved it.
We fucking loved it. Yeah. We loved it. We were super proud of it. And then we went out and toured it. People were not feeling it at all.
But they would come to the show?
Come to the show, arms crossed. Oh, great. Not one of the... Play faster. Play faster. Shit. So we knew... It was great, but we knew we had really flipped the boat upside down. We had flipped the boat upside down. And so it would have been more prudent to like, okay, everybody stop, back to Los Angeles, take 6 months off, and we're going to write another batch of songs. That would have been the smart, educated version. But in opposite land, it's like, by the time we got back, Brian, who could be kind of sometimes like, I'm over it. Fuck it. He was already auditioning for another band. He was just like, fuck it. Peter was already back on the East Coast. Fuck it. Scott was already like, I think at that time was already like auditioning for the Cult.
Damn.
Like he went up. I'm going to Arena Rock. And
how many tours you doing field day?
One.
Wow.
One tour. And so it is a very unique, incredibly ambitious body of work that some people totally get and love. Sometimes it's the entry point for some people to field day, and then they work, or to Dag Nasty, and then they work their way backwards.
Yeah.
And there's sometimes it's so funny because some people really get it and some people really hate that record. But there are bands like I know Bad Religion did a record like that where it was the one with the space on the cover, and they don't really play it, and it was just a weird.
Brett talked about it.
A weird wonky
Stranger
record.
Addiction?
I don't know.
Sure.
No, it wasn't that. It was I don't know.
Backmore.
Unknown something or other.
Yeah. He mentioned on the podcast, but he mentioned like this. He said it under his breath.
Yeah, and so that's just one. So that's kind of that was a very.
I got one.
It was a very unique. It's okay. You're experimenting. I mean, what is it?
You can't make the same record over and over again. It gets boring. You have to experiment shit.
You have to try. I think you have to try things. You have to try things, and then so that kind of brings us to the present day of what am I actually working on right now.
Yes, but there's other ones before the Cottonmouth King. Shit.
Okay, do you want me to?
I do.
I'm going to pump over that way.
We're going to do part 1, 2, and I could talk to you for hours, but real quick, where did the name Field Day come from?
That's a Peter one.
Okay.
So I don't know where he got that.
And what about Denko's? Where is that?
That's where they would go and party.
Okay. And that's somewhere in
Tacoma Park.
Tacoma Park, it's Denko's. Okay.
Yeah.
It's the name of the area or something?
A house.
A house, okay.
Like a house.
Okay.
Yeah. And those guys, Peter sometimes writes very like real characters and is like, there really is a Hal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There really is a Mark.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, there really is a Mrs. Tuma. There really is a Leo. Like,
I love
you know,
that.
and sometimes it's like, you know, but then he never shared any of that. It wasn't until now that it's like, oh, okay. Here, like, just so you know, like, this is what it is.
Yeah.
So I'm going to answer your Cottonmouth Kings thing. So,
what happens? You have to field day. The band all disperses.
Okay, so everybody bails. It's a
wrap.
It's a wrap. Boom. Not going to be any more. Brian goes off. He's doing his thing.
Was that Junkyard next?
He's going off to do Junkyard.
Okay.
Peter's not really doing anything. Scott goes on to do his thing.
Is everybody bummed?
I don't know about bummed. I don't know about bummed isn't the right word. I think everybody's just, there's no career in Opposite Land.
I know, but you can still be bummed that people didn't respond to it.
No.
Something you really loved.
Nope. We never, that never even was a conversation. Okay. No way. Just, we liked the record and we thought it was kind of cool. Bummer that people didn't get it.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Gotcha.
So Brian is kind of like doing the Junkyard thing and he's back in Los Angeles. He's doing his thing. At one point, he's kind of like working at a rehearsal studio and working at a pool hall. It's kind of, that's his thing. Peter is off the grid, doesn't want to have anything to do with music. Done. Scott continues playing. For me, I kind of pump the brakes a little bit. I continue to do kind of studying more on how to record, like how to make better demos. So I kind of got to go down that rabbit hole. And then a couple years go by and I'm doing a couple different experimental things. And then I start this punk rock band. So remember before today where I was talking about like, okay, so I'm back in Los Angeles. It's in the early 90s and I don't really have a job. So I'm working, playing, you know, am I going to play? Am I not going to play? And I started connecting with Brad, Doggy Style Brad. And he's now involved in the club business. Yeah. And so he's putting on kind of like funk clubs and raves and shit like that. So
I'm getting you some water.
Right. So as he's doing the raves and stuff like that, everybody's looking for work. So that's how I really start connecting with like Rich instead. Tony from No Doubt also works at the clubs. Gwen works at the clubs. Wow. Boom, boom, boom. Well, so we're doing the club thing and everything's going fine. Whatever. Thank you for the water. Everything's going fine. And Brad says to me one day, dude, he's like, do you want to do a punk band? And I'm like, dude, I don't know. I'm like, I don't know. And he's like, well, come on, let's do a punk band. And so Brad and I, long story short, we end up doing this project called Humble Gods.
Yes.
Okay. So Humble Gods is two brothers. So it's Brad and his brother Spike from My Number 4, Rick and his brother Lou from Doggy Style, okay, sick. And myself. I'm the only guy. It's 5 guys, 2 brothers, me. Do the band, indie thing. We play. We do a record on Hollywood Records. That's where I meet the ICP guys. Is through Hollywood Records. So let me take a sip.
Random.
So here's what's going on. So Humble Gods is the first band to actually tour with ICP and not get quartered off the stage.
Wow.
So Humble Gods is a great punk band. Fucking lightning fast, super fun, spastic. Brad's a great front guy.
What year is that?
90, maybe 95?
Okay.
95?
Okay.
95? Anyway, so it's going great. While we're doing these punk shows, we see this band called Insane Clown Posse, which were also on Hollywood Records. Because Brad had the experience in R&B and really way more knowledgeable about rap and hip hop than I ever was, he saw what was going on with the ICP and the track acts and being able to this big show.
Yeah.
And there were these 2 basketball punker skater kids that used to come to Humble God shows. D-Loke and Saint. There were these 3 kids. There were 3 of them. And they are all tied into the basketball world, but kind of would come out to the punk shows.
Got you.
Brad knew at the end of that ICP tour, he's like, I'm going to start a rap band with those 3 kids. So he starts this project, which is kind of like a Beastie Boys meets Cheech and Chong meets skate punk.
Okay.
That is what Cottonmouth Kings was. And it got bigger and better and bigger and better.
Shit.
And I was really kind of like a peripheral guy to it because they really needed every once in a while somebody to play guitar.
Got you.
So I ended up playing on a lot of recordings and writing songs.
And they were big too, man.
Yeah,
Pretty big.
sure.
You played live with them too?
Sometimes, maybe 2 or 3 tours.
Wow.
But they didn't really need a guitar player.
Yeah.
It's a whole different trip. But anyway, that was how that came about, was through the Insane Clown Posse.
I never knew Doggy Style Singer, first of all, straight. Second of all, was in Cottonmouth King.
Right.
Fucking
and then, but well,
crazy.
he's definitely, like, I think by that time he was more like a weed guy than he was a straight edge
makes
guy.
sense. The name
Right.
of the
He was
band.
more like a weed guy.
Cottonmouth, yeah.
But it tied, all of it tied together from the punk band being on Hollywood Records and then touring with ICP. And,
Holy
and
shit.
that's that thing. So, yeah, there's that.
And then what happened after Cottonmouth Kings? Like, what you doing after that?
Okay, so I'm done with Cottonmouth Kings. Again, now I go really knee deep into writing songs for film and television.
Awesome.
So I'm really focused on that, in that space.
That's amazing.
And audio editing and all of that stuff, which I'm really quite capable of. Like, I'm certified in Pro Tools, and I fell backwards into that because I always wanted to make better demos.
Okay.
That's how I started doing it.
Yeah.
And so I'm quite capable of running a studio if need be.
Yeah.
Like, that's just one of those things. And so there was a pretty good minute where I was only, like, I was in the bunker writing tracks, and tracks would be on, Comedy Central and shit like that.
Holy shit,
Yeah.
that's awesome, man.
That's a whole nother tentacle.
That's a whole different world to get into, too. Like,
it is what it is. You just
Yeah.
So yes, there is a one of the cars on the train is a guy named Doug that wrote songs that would be like on a Lewis Black show or some freaking thing like that. You go, yeah, I did that too.
that's really cool, though.
Yeah,
Just to hear your shit on somewhere else is not just...
yeah. It's a
On a record.
or you see it in like a movie or something like that. You go, oh yeah, that's kind of cool. It is what it is.
So how long did you do that for?
A minute, easily 10 years.
Holy shit.
Easily
So that was
10
your main thing you were doing?
Yeah. Bread and butter was coming from like writing cues and tracks. And,
Did you miss touring?
I really love entertaining people,
Yeah.
but at the same time, there wasn't anything that I would consider a viable vehicle for me to kind of be involved in.
Okay.
And then as the writing kind of came to a close, here I'm going to go with another chapter. So, Cottonmouth Kings, as they were getting signed to Capitol Records, one of the deals that Brad had struck with them is he was going to do this boutique label called Suburban Noise.
Yeah, I've heard of
Suburban
that.
Noise.
Holy shit.
I ran because all
know
it
that.
was an office and a phone.
Holy shit.
And
I
so
know
Brad
that.
was like, I'm going to be on the road. Can you try to figure this out? And so I was the guy that kind of did the street marketing and the grooming of the bands that were supposed to go into the Capitol system, but never went into the Capitol system. So there's another hat that I wear, which is very well versed in the independent record world. Ha!
You've done every part of the music industry.
And I'll continue doing it. I am a punk rock impresario. I know how to book a show, produce a show. I can be on the bandstand. I can produce the music. I can do all. I know how to do the flyers. I can do all that shit.
So
and it's only through like being the guy that's like, I'm cheap, so I had to figure out how to do it. It's just like, oh,
But it's all self-taught shit. It's learning.
Totally.
Paying attention from day one.
totally.
Everything you've been involved in.
Yeah. And that's so that's that. Like, how did I learn how to book punk shows? Kind of like watching Bill do it. You go, oh fuck. You go, okay. And then from there, I started applying that to Dag Nasty, and then just kept,
But you guys had agents. Did you have booking?
No, dude, it's opposite land.
Wait a second. So Dag Nasty never had a booking agent.
The only time we ever had somebody help us book shows was once. Other than that, I booked all the shows.
Holy shit.
True.
They're in Descendents? They have an agent now, but back then.
No. I'm going to go with Jordan booked a chunk of it and Bill.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Bill. Like, Bill was the guy. He was the point guy.
But for most of your career, the stuff you did was stuff that you were really like your bands, you booked everything. It wasn't like,
Like, literally a
Wow,
punk rock
man.
impresario, meaning I can do the whole production. I know
fucking
how to,
love
like,
that, man.
from idea to the stage. I can do every part of it.
You design stuff, design merchandise?
Yeah, I could.
Yeah.
I could, I sometimes I feel like on that particular thing, I sometimes like to have a second opinion because I feel like I'm in a vacuum.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean?
It's
So,
hard.
but
Sure.
I'm quite capable in Photoshop and all those other things. Yes,
So,
yes. Yes,
Suburban Noise, you ran that for how many years?
Probably about 2.5, 3 years.
And then after that?
After that, I was kind of back in the post-production writing tracks world.
Yeah. Writing songs for people and stuff?
Yeah, doing that.
Cool.
In fact, just the other day, sadly, Kim Shattuck from the Muffs had passed away, and it was like through a mutual publisher. She wanted to do What a Wonderful World, kind of more Ramones-y kind of style, and like, of course, I produced it and played guitar on it and played bass on it. Like that's me. There you go.
Wow.
So I did that. Like, house and people would come by and you record and you jam with people or whatever. In Cottonmouth Kings land, I probably co-wrote for Suburban Noise 50, 60 songs.
Holy shit.
Like a lot.
Yeah.
And you just keep going. So always looking through the front windshield. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Looking through the front windshield. And so...
And then when did you become a dad?
A dad. So in 2005. And so becoming a dad. So here you go. So when I became a dad, everything changed for me.
Yeah.
The Doug that like would be able to drink a beer or something like that, I no longer felt like I was the guy that would be setting a good example. And so I literally have been sober 14 years
it's fucking amazing,
because of kids. And I was like, I grew up with no dad. Mom with shitty boyfriends and stuff like that. Overexposed into the like, just, I don't want to raise a kid in that world. No way.
Your dad split. Whenever you mentioned your dad split early.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They divorced, but he was always around. But unfortunately, because I was so far removed, it was more like a relationship, like with an uncle.
Yeah.
Like, that's my, you know what I mean? I didn't.
So when you become a dad, you want to. It's me too. My dad died when I was 3, and my mom raised 3 boys on her own.
Right.
So we had boyfriends. They were never good enough for my mom.
Yeah.
Then you become a dad, you want to be fucking.
Well,
insane,
it's
man.
a game. It's a huge game changer. And when you're trying to just, when you're trying to lead by example, just on that, you go, all right, I'm going to lead by example. And then you really have to do inventory of who you are as a human being and how you're going to be the biggest influence on this kid. And are you going to be a good influence or are you going to be a toxic influence? And I opted to go for I wanted to be the best I could be. And one of it was, I can't drink in front of the kids. You can't do that. And so my kids, what's fascinating is my kids, they've never seen me drink. In fact, they would laugh at me like, what are you talking about? Dad doesn't drink. Where, my wife and I have been together for a while. Like when we first started dating, we'd go out to the clubs and we'd go hang out and stuff like that. But once kids came around, no way, Jose.
I feel like that's our job to be a role model.
Totally different. So that's how I stumbled backwards into being the guy that just I do the things that work and the things that don't work, I ditch.
I love that.
It's
cold turkey. Just totally stop doing that.
And that's one of my biggest strengths and biggest weaknesses is that I'm a super strong cup of coffee.
Okay.
I'm really, really intense. And sometimes people can really migrate to that, or sometimes it turns people off.
Love your energy.
But sometimes people are like, that guy's he's too insane.
You're high on life, man.
I'm super, and for me, it's great.
Yeah.
Like I kind of do my thing.
Yeah.
And so, but I respect that I can be sometimes a bit just too intense for people. It's just too.
But
I just move too fast.
But it's coming from a good place, not it's passion. It's you know what I mean?
I'm like when we were talking about producing shows and stuff like that, and what I'm currently working on. It's like I don't mean to, but I can outrun people when it comes to I'm the guy that's I love entertaining people. And part of entertaining people is I have to jump on the phone and talk to people and set up shows and meet other bands. And it's that's part of the gig, which is a whole nother job to the guy that's up there on stage.
Yes.
It's a whole nother thing of the background of how that works. And that part of it is freakishly love too, because it's a way that I can connect with other people.
Yeah, I was
and
gonna say that.
it's also like solving a puzzle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where you go, oh shit, we're gonna be in Dallas, and you go, where do you want to play? What are the good venues? Da, 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 da. Who are the people you want to reach out to? And because I've been doing it for more than 2 weeks, I'm quite proficient at it, and I kind of know how to drill into it. And so, you know, I am the guy on the bandstand, and then I'm also quite proficient on the back end of the business.
Yeah.
Yeah. That part.
You know it all. I mean, you've been through all of
Indeed.
it. You know what I mean? You've been through
Indeed.
like majors, independent labels.
Oh
all
my
that stuff.
gosh. Yeah. Yeah. I've done, I think maybe like 3 major label deals and probably a dozen indie deals. And they're all great and challenging and have pluses and minuses to doing it. Now we're really in opposite land. It's like now the canvas has changed so much.
Yeah.
I don't even know whether that is a smart play or not. You know, for some bands, you know, that's a good idea. And then for other bands, I don't even know if that is if that's a recommendation. It's like, you know, just all you're trying to do is maybe just trying to make the people that show up happy.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure.
That's kind of it. Like playing, it's like fruit closest to the ground. Just, you know, oh, XYZ showed up. You just go, okay, cool. You know, with that, like segueing now into field day. So so here we go. So
actually one more thing about being a parent.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you use a lot of the stuff you learned, like the punk ethics, into you're already a punk rock dad. We know that, but like instill it into your children, like the stuff you learned through music and traveling and being a punk rock kid and doing a lot of things yourself and teaching yourself things and
all the time. And what's all the time, because what I've fallen into a space of approaching things in a very not one size fits all.
Yeah.
And when you can tell and you can kind of being a dad, that's a whole another can of worms. Really, but it's like, man, you are what you're trying to do is help your kids lean ladders against buildings, and then all you got to do is just be a champion for them to climb those rungs. And you can, like, every once in a while you go, dude, that might not be the best building to climb. How about doing this one? And they're like, okay, Dad. And then you lean the ladder and they put in the effort and you go, badass, you made it to the top.
So true.
And you know, I didn't have that at all. Like, there was my mom didn't tell me, like, you should go to college, or my dad was nowhere around to say that. It was like, I picked up a guitar. I was like, oh shit, I'm looking through the front windshield and this guitar is like going forward. And that was it. Now I have a conversation with my son. My kids are, both of them are really smart, very, very different. My daughter, super creative, more like almost like a Lady Gaga kind of a character. Like teeny bopper, sing, you know, she's more very social in the in that like Wizard of Oz, in the Wizard of Oz. You know? My son on the other side is more like Albert Einstein and Jim Carrey. Okay. And so he's 2 is incredible, but the challenge is always trying to make sure that he does the things with his acumen, that he does good things.
Yes.
So as a dad, that's the trick, is it's like you have the ability to do, both of them have the ability to do anything really. Yes. And it's like, please do good things. Mm-hmm. And if I can instill that happy, healthy, safe, kind, courteous, honest, respectful, you know, if I can instill those things at the teeny bopper age, you know, by the time they get to the, you know, he's 14, she's 11. They tend to get to a certain age. They kind of know the deal. And then there's what's also funny is that neither of my, I don't know if you want to talk about kids that much, but neither of my kids really, my daughter sings, but neither of the kids are really interested in music and have no context to punk rock or what I do. And they don't, and so it's really weird. Like I asked Luca the other day, Luca, where are the Ramones from? New York or London? He's like, I don't know. He's like, I don't know. What are you talking about? Why are you asking me that? He's like annoyed. Like, why are you asking me this? You know, so
I love that.
It's pretty funny. And then every once in a while, somebody will be, something will happen. I'll be out and somebody will say, hey, can I take a picture? Yeah. And you go, sure. And you take a picture and then they'll say, Dad, do you know that guy? You go, nope. why'd they want to take a picture? You go, they like the music. You go, oh, so
I love that.
You know,
man.
and I shrug it over. Oh, okay, cool. It is what it is. But being a dad keeps you really focused.
It really does.
Man, it makes you really focused. You have a lot of stuff to do, and sometimes you, in a way,
You have two, so
you know,
yes.
in a way, for me, it was kind of a spot of like kind of just doing inventory and realizing how was I going to be the best dad I could be, with flaws and all. You know, everybody,
perfect,
you know, you
yes.
go, oh, and there are times you drop the ball and you make bad decisions. And parenting is awesome, scary, insane, rewarding, fantastic, scary, awesome, insane. It's like, oh my God.
I agree.
It's a journey. It's a journey, and
Every day,
and it goes by in a blur.
It does, dude.
And you know, again, my kids are so funny because it's like, my kids are funny because they trip out that I like talk to people. You know, they're like, Dad, you know, I'll be at the grocery store and, you know, I'll just start randomly talking to people. You're a social guy. You talk to people.
Yeah.
My kids are like, dude, for our New Year's resolution, we don't want you to talk to people. Because I embarrass them when I go out.
Talk to strangers.
Yeah, don't talk to strangers.
You told us not to talk to strangers.
Yeah.
Now you're talking to them.
And so it is what, you know, it is what it is, where it's like, you know, I try to be the best dad that I can be. And sometimes it's like, they don't want me to talk to strangers. They don't want me to talk to other people. You know, kids are different.
They
now.
totally are.
They're
Max,
like,
you
you know, I'm
embarrass
supposed
me.
to text the parents. You know, it's just a whole different thing. But
It is. Have they seen Field Day play?
no.
Invite them to the Cali show. It'd be awesome.
Maybe the bigger one would do. I don't know. They don't. Again, it's, dude. Think of something that's like something that you do that. Well, Matt, for your son, it's different because he's interested in music and stuff like that. Where my kids, that's just like, what is that? Like, what is that? It's just annoying, Dad, just making noise. What is that? What exactly does he do out there? Why does he leave at night and then he comes back in the middle of the night? It's like they have not only no context to it, they kind of know, but they really have
no idea.
Dude, that's so, like, I'll play them things. None.
So they haven't seen you play a show and people going off?
They've seen that stuff. But they don't, it's like again, it's not about me, it's about them. And what they're more interested in is like, you know, oh, Just Cause came out or some video game came out or a TikTok thing or whatever.
TikTok, yeah.
You know, and so the dad part of me too always has to do your best to protect them and try to lead by example.
Yes.
And you know, there are times where you're making a decision that isn't necessarily one that you want to have above board, and you kind of have to steer the ship in the right direction and hope that they connect. Sometimes you have to make decisions where you're even questioning yourself, where it's like you're wondering, like, is that safe for the kids? You know, is that safe? And that's we're in a whole different dimension
for that, right?
of that,
especially now.
But that's all you can do is, you know, I know on my end, I just try to instill in them, just try to do good things, be good to people, try to do good things, either one of them could do something pretty incredible. And I remind them, I'm like, if you can solve how to build water systems for other cultures and you want to go install water systems in Africa, badass. Like, that's the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
Not to be, you know, trying to instill, not to be consumers. You know what I mean? Trying to be people that give back and, you know, add to something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I love that.
But they're very different. They're very different from each other, and they're different kids. And it's cool. You know, being a dad's really cool, and it's also very, like, it keeps you hyper focused on the stuff you got to get done.
Keeps you younger too, I think, for some reason.
Yeah.
To keep up with them and all that stuff.
Yeah, you try. You know, you try. I like I said, my kids are funny because I tend to be more just like, I'm so squirrely and unique that they're just like, eye roll. Oh my God, Dad, you know, because I'm the guy that like goes and, you know, I go to the soccer games and it's like all the parents, you know, the parents just like, I'll talk to the parents and they're like, you know, I'll be telling some strange story, and they're like, Dad, let's go, you know, where you go, all right.
I love that, man.
Yeah, it's funny.
You're outgoing, so it's like
I am, and I'm also in a spot where it's like I can only be myself.
of course.
You know what I mean? That's all you can do, and it's like I'm not like the other dads.
Neither am I, man.
And sometimes, and I ask them, I'm like, you know, guys, you know, I'm like, I am not a dentist or a lawyer, so I am very, very unique. And sometimes that's really, they get it.
Yeah.
Or shall I say, sometimes it's the bane of their existence, yet all their friends want to come and hang out with me.
Cool.
You go, your dad's the best. And you go, but my kids just think I'm crazy. They think I'm, you know, they just think I'm crazy.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
So I know you got to go, but this has been amazing. But I want to know about Field Day, how that came about.
Okay.
In a nutshell.
In a nutshell. Whew, the big broad strokes.
Whatever.
Okay, so Field Day basically is an extension of Dag Nasty. And Peter and I have rebooted this, where Peter sang on Wig Out and sang on Field Day. And we had a conversation about a year back, and the question was whether or not any of the Wig Out stuff could be performed live.
And what made you think about it? Did you miss it or something?
No, it was just one of those things where in a weird circumstance, Brian and I had jumped on the phone and we hadn't connected in a little while, and we started talking a little bit, and I was like, that's kind of, you know, I was like, I don't know, would that work? Would it not work? And he's like, well, you know, maybe, blah, 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 blah.
Was this his idea originally? To bring something back? Okay.
I don't even know how the idea came about.
Yeah.
Probably more like, you know, people, because it's social media and stuff like that, people are, I think this is how it happened. People ask, I probably get 2 or 3 texts or emails a week. Dude, why don't you play those songs? Dude, what? Dude, where's Peter Kortner hiding? Dude. And so finally I was like, all right, whatever. And being the punk rock impresario, it perked my curiosity. So after a conversation with Brian and a conversation with Peter, Brian got busy because of his Bad Religion cycle, and
Yes.
Peter and I kind of just opted where we were going to start this project called Field Day, and it's basically we go deep into the Dag Nasty catalog
Yes.
as kind of where we are right now,
Yes.
and then literally like we're writing songs as we're going to move forward too.
Yeah.
So it's like that's kind of where it is. We've been doing the motto in Field Day is be humble and don't suck.
Yeah.
So we really appreciate that people come out and want to hang out and are kind of honored that people want to come out and hear the songs.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, we realize how much the songs mean to other people.
Yes.
So we don't phone it in. So there's 2 parts. The part about be humble, we're incredibly humble and grateful. And the part about don't suck, the band is Dragon Slayers.
They're amazing.
It's just
It's so
insane.
good.
It's insane. It's
is.
insane. And I was in the first band. So it's like, I know.
Yeah.
And that's part of it is a little bit of, okay, if you're going to open that door, you better deliver the goods, because there's going to be people that are skeptical or haters. You know, you're skeptical, and you have to really over deliver. And so that's kind of what Field Day is. And as we've been rolling it out, we play we kind of play one weekend a month. So we're doing, you know, we do a lot like we're in the East Coast.
Yeah.
We're getting ready next shows are going to be up in like Chicago, St. Louis, and then we're going to be doing some Texas dates, and then we're going to be doing some Northern California dates. And if you're trying to track it down, it would be Field Day Sounds. If you just Google that, or you go Field Day Sounds in Facebook, which is probably the easiest place, and you'll see all the dates. And so we're really doing lots of shows, and we're going to probably do most of the what you'd call major markets for the next 9 months, and then start hitting some of the secondary markets, and then we're going to go handle some territories where Dag Nasty never went. For example, South America. We're talking about Japan. We're right on the fence of doing Rebellion Fest, and so we're kind of just like rolling. It's just rolling. I'm super happy where it's going. It's moving very fast. I'm humbled that people want to come out and hear the songs.
Yeah.
And it is a juggernaut. The band is just raging. It's insane.
Really is. I know
it's insane.
I know what to expect. And I went to see you guys at the Viper Room, and it was just from the first song to the last song, it was just so tight. It sounded so good. The energy was so strong. The crowd was great, and just hearing those songs, they sounded perfect. Even at some points, I closed my eyes and listened to it. Took me back to a certain time in my life, and it just. Yeah, it was wonderful, man. It was a wonderful experience.
It is a.
You should be really proud, man.
I am proud of it. And then there's also like I'm also just as excited about like new material that we're working on, and it's like, you know, we're gonna keep going, and if people want to come out and see it, cool. You know, we love it, and we're gonna keep going. And if you're, you know, a fan of that, Can I Say, Wig Out. There's some people, it's funny because some people really want to hear the Field Day stuff. Mm-hmm. Some people want to do, just give me the Can I Say stuff. So we're learning too, like, you know, every room might be different.
But I thought the set was perfect when you guys mixed in there.
We just barrel into it. And what's, again, it's, we don't phone it in. The band's really good. It's really good. It's intense and it's fun.
And we're doing a show together I'm excited about.
Yes. In fact, we're going to be doing November 23rd, H2O Ignite Field Day at the Garden Amphitheater in Garden Grove. And
I just added my son's band on there too as an opener.
Oh,
the first band of the night.
Really cool.
Rend.
I love it. There you go. So be fun and crazy. That show is interesting because it's going to be like a relatively small room, lower stage, no barricade. So we're calling it
crazy
just
small.
Like stage dives and sing-alongs. So get ready. If you want to come and sing along and you want to sing safe or whatever, like there you go. You get your opportunity.
It's going to be real. I'm excited about that. And like, I've just been spreading the word as soon as I got it. Like, me and a bunch of friends got matching Wig Out tattoos, and like, I'm excited to have you guys. It's a perfect time for you guys to be back, I think, and I think everybody should see it. And I think it's, and also there's also a Dag Nasty touring and there's a Field Day touring,
right?
So people know that it's two different versions.
And so Peter and I use the name Field Day, so it's super clear who's showing up, and so that's where we are. So people know it's not confusing to the promoters. It's not confusing to the fans. You go, oh, Field Day. That's Doug and Peter. Yes. Great. And it's very, very clear. And it's cool. You know, it is exactly what it is. And I think that
it's so fun, man.
Has made it's made it kind of cool where it's really, Peter really hasn't been on the Field Day subject. Like, Peter really has not been doing a ton of music, so it's super fun for him, which is kind of cool. Since then. And then also what's incredible is that Peter and I get to hang. Yeah. And that's what's cool too. So when we do, like, when he lives on the East Coast and we're based in Los Angeles, and he comes out, it's like he'll stay with me at the house. Like, he and I bunk, like, same hotel rooms. Man. It's like we hang. And that's kind of cool too, where you have a relationship with somebody, a pause, and then like you're kind of like another chapter of a relationship. Yeah. You know, a friendship, which is really cool too.
And having him like being like coming out of wherever he was in his life and come put back on stage and playing these songs, it must be a trip for him for sure.
It's very bizarre because remember where he left off was in Opposite Land.
That's right.
So he only knows, like, remember before we were talking about the show in Philly? Yes. Right? Yeah. Where you guys were in Philly, and it's like, I don't, you know, the things that maybe Toby's eyes have seen, where it's like, you know, maybe you've seen 7,000 people, 10,000 people, 20,000 people play it, and you go, wow, shit, that's what that looks like. Mm-hmm. He's never seen that. Yeah. So part of it is also not to maybe not to shock him, you know, not to, it's like, you know, he's a different guy. He's not, he can be, you know, a little bit more reserved. And so the friend in me really is protective of him too,
Yeah.
and just like go slow.
That's
go
the thing.
slow,
When I
go
saw
slow.
you guys, these guys put me on blast and said, "Come on stage." I didn't even know what song it was. I was a fan up front the whole set. I was there. I came to be a fan, and then I got asked to be on stage, and then once I realized what it was, I did it, and I was excited. So I was going to do the exact same thing to Peter, but as soon as I saw him, I didn't have the heart to like put him on the spot like that.
Right.
So I brought him backstage. He saw the band. And I said, "I got to tell you something." And he was with his wife and his mother-in-law. I was like, "Fuck, I can't put this guy on blast." So then I told him, and he was so psyched.
Right.
Then we just did it because I didn't want to put him on the spot. Like,
Right.
I couldn't do that to him. But he came on stage, and it was a great crowd. It was a wonderful moment. My whole band's still like talking about it. I never thought in a million years we'd be doing a Dag Nasty cover with him on stage with us in 2019.
I never would have thought that too. That's even weirder because every time I checked in with him, Peter and I never had one conversation in decades where we talked about Dag Nasty and doing it.
Damn.
Never, like, he was clearly not talking about doing music. Like, he's just into other stuff.
Yeah.
Studying and reading and learning and, being married and stuff like
Social work. Yeah.
No interest in doing that.
Yeah.
That's why, it was even a bit surreal the first few times where I had spoken with him.
Yeah.
It's like, you really want to do this? And he's like gung ho, and we just do it. We make it work. We make it. It's a bi-coastal band, and we make it work. And
Yeah.
we
My drummer lives in Jersey. The whole band lives here.
yeah.
Yeah.
We just make it work. You just make it work. It's a whole nother. We're not in opposite land. We're in the new version.
Yeah.
And so that's it. And we're doing as many shows as we can. So lots of shows.
Yeah, I definitely want to do some more shows. Try to make it happen. Get some more shows, you guys too, because I think it's gonna be a perfect combo. Like my whole band's so excited to even play with you guys. It's gonna be really
I know that's a whole
young and new audience.
Yeah, when we're done with this, we'll have a conversation about
More shows.
Well, there's that, and like I know you guys just did the East Coast. We just did the East Coast, but there's other stuff always,
I want to connect you with my South American person too in Japan. And one of my good friends, a really important name in Japan, just emailed me 2 days ago, and now it makes sense that you're talking from Japan, and asked me how great we got. It was like, how do they sound live? I said it was incredible. He's my friend Hikaru from Bounty Hunter. He's a big toy maker, but a DJ there. Really good friends with Rancy. He's a big, powerful person in the scene. He just asked me questions 2 days ago about Field Day.
Oh,
so that makes sense now.
Yeah.
Whoever you're talking to over there checking in and stuff, I was like, yeah, it was fucking awesome. It was awesome.
And also, like what's great about Field Day too is it's very it's what I would call like a family band, in that like anybody that wants to come and bring their wives or whatever, that's mellow. The booking part, it's not really like agents and stuff like that. It's pretty punk rock. You
do it all.
It's pretty punk rock.
Yeah.
And that's what's sometimes is a little bit trippy too, is that people, they're like, you're like, dude, you booked the band? I go, yeah.
Yeah.
I go, yeah. And so it's kind of fun too. But it's so, in a way, it's so DIY. Like,
it really is.
It's so DIY. And
it's working now.
And it's wild.
In 2019 too.
It's wild. And then we're just, as we go through, probably, as weird as it sounds, like I'm already looking down toward like Florida and doing Florida in March, and we're already pretty far down the line.
I was telling Jim from Pennywise too about the shows I saw too.
Yeah, so it's insane, and come and do a sing along. Like everybody come and sing along.
I love it because the vibe that I went to was like an older crowd, but everybody's just singing along, everybody's smiling. It's like nobody's really dancing. We're like just like rocking out together.
It's a trip.
It's really...
it's a trip because it's a bit of a it's a trip because it's a bit of a time warp.
Yeah.
On one hand, and then on the other hand, it's like people are a little bit in shock. I think they're in shock because they're like, holy,
Not in shock. I was so fucking pumped from it.
It's a trip.
I was blown away by it because then the curtains fucking open or come up at the Viper Room. Like, first of all, these guys are playing Viper Room. I haven't seen a punk show there in years. And then it comes up, and then there you guys are, and then just smashes right into it. I was like, oh, holy fuck, like where am I? I'm in the fucking time warp.
Yeah, it is a
That's
time
what
warp.
it felt like.
And the other thing too is that we don't really like. There's not really a lot of pause in between songs.
No.
Like we cover a lot of ground,
that.
a lot of material, and so it's song,
Banger,
which is
banger,
very
yeah.
Ramones style.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
just rock into it. But anyway,
You could add
long
one thing
story.
more in
Yeah,
there.
we're right in. But long story short, it's like the field day thing is it's rolling and it's moving very, very fast. And we're come out if
You guys
you're
are having fun.
If you're in Chicago, we're going to be up that way. If you're in Florida, we're going to be there. If you're in Phoenix, we're going to be there. So just do the internet thing and you'll find it and come out and hang. And that's the other thing too. Don't be shy.
Yeah.
Like sometimes people are a little bit, there's no need to be weirded out. Like come say hello and take a picture. And it's like, it's the most user friendly group, like crew. Like
Yeah,
nobody,
but I think it was surreal for some people because
Yeah.
they've never seen those songs be played before, Field
No.
or Wig Out, and seen Peter and you know what I mean? Like
Sure.
you've been in other bands, but he's been like so off the grid.
Well, not only that, but there's this. I'll give you a dumb story. So we were doing rehearsals here in Los Angeles, and myself and Peter and Mark were kind of working out songs, and Peter and I were singing kind of like a duet thing, and we're playing, and we're singing, and Mark stops, and he's like, "Holy shit!" He's like, "I cannot believe the sound that the two of you make," because the only context he's had is listening to Trouble Is from a recording.
Yeah.
And when Peter and I are 3 feet away from him and go, "No, we can sing it acoustically. You want to hear it?" And he's like, "Holy shit." So it's really like there's a certain, I wouldn't say that I'm the best vocalist in the world, nor would Peter ever say he's the best vocalist. But when we sing in unison, there's
Together.
a certain sound.
Yep.
And that's very, it's a bit of a time warp. It
Yeah.
kind of trips people
It's
out.
really-
And we can kind of do it.
It sounds perfect. Like,
Yeah.
I can't stress enough that it's everybody has to see it, and I think you guys could fit on a lot of different types of bills too in this time. You know
Well,
what I mean?
that's another one too, where it's like we're open to ideas. We don't have just a one size fits all thing.
No,
There's
for sure.
there's some, we're just gonna keep playing and see where the journey takes us.
Yeah,
That's all we can really do.
Yeah.
It's just you go, oh wow, okay,
But you'd be surprised at the impact of Dag Nasty. I went and saw The Cure a couple months ago, my wife, and Deftones, and I never met Mike Dirt in my life, and he came up to me. I was wearing that Dag Nasty shirt he gave me, and he just came out and goes, "That record is so perfect." He's like, "There's songs that people make, and they just hit it out the ballpark." He said some shit. He's like, "Every song on that record." He's like, "I love that band." I was like, "Oh, nice to meet you," And then the other night when I saw Angels and Airwaves, I went backstage just talking to Tom DeLonge, and he's blasting, and I shot a video of it and just showed it to you before the podcast, blasting Wig Out and Descendents backstage in this huge room full of all these people, and it's just coming out of his room. I said, "Dude, they're playing shows again?" He goes, "What?" And they talking about the field day lineup and all this shit. Like, it's just the impact of those records to you. You just made those songs with your friends. You played. You did the tours. There was no career and there's no future in it. But the impact, 2019, people are still loving it and listening to it. And it's a big inspiration. It's awesome. Man.
Thank you, and it's one of those things where it boggles my mind too. I think now people have had a moment to kind of live with it.
Yeah.
And then they're off doing new bands and stuff like that.
But it stays a soundtrack in people's lives. And like I said, when I got to your show, it just brings back all these memories. It was almost like a surreal moment. I'm like, I can't believe I'm standing here and hearing this shit in 2019. It sounds better than the records.
It's a trip. It's a trip, and we're, like I said, we're humbled by it.
Yeah.
And we don't phone it in. The band is very, very good. Like we play.
Yeah.
If you want to hear the songs, we can play them faster than the recordings. Like, it's like we shed. We shed and we rehearse quite a bit behind the scenes.
You can tell. And energy's there, and
then
and you guys all look great too.
Yeah, thank you.
You guys are aging really well.
Yeah, everybody. We just have, it's fun. It's like it's some of the. It's super fun and it's great. It's like maybe like a triangle. It's like there's you, there's the audience, and then there's this common denominator of this song that maybe meant a lot to them. And You know,
Yeah.
they heard a billion times. And even when you look at, let's say, like Wig Out and the time period, there's not really a lot of photos. So
No.
you really have the opportunity to create what your own image of what you think these people look like,
Peter's so
are like.
fucking tall. I
Yeah.
didn't realize it.
You know, and you go, oh wow, and then to be able to replicate that and to emotionally strike a chord with people is it's great. It's humbling. It's fun. We love it. People say, what's the best thing in the world? People come and they get to sing their favorite Dag Nasty songs.
I know, it's fucking
the
crazy,
best-
man.
It's the greatest thing in the world.
30 years later or
Yeah.
some shit.
Insane.
It's fucking crazy. So we covered a lot of things. Usually some of my key questions, I already know the question to this is that, are you an optimist or a pessimist? You are a very positive person,
Oh,
so
dude.
I know the answer to that
Yeah,
question.
come on now.
Your energy, just everything about it, it's infectious, and I love that about you. Daily rituals, I pretty much figured that out. You're a coffee guy, you're a dad when you're home, you know, you do your music, you do the managing, you book the shows, and you're also hands-on, you balance your family really well. Regrets, any regrets in your life? That's a hard one. Some people say
I don't.
no.
I don't know. I guess there might be some. There might be some regrets. Well, you know what? I think that when you make mistakes, when you learn from them, then it's maybe not the best decision at the time, but you've taken something from it.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't regret because you get a little kernel of information of like, hey, dumbass, don't do that. So
Yeah.
I would say there's plenty of things I'm proud of and things that maybe you're not proud of, but you kind of had to do that so then you can take inventory and say, and that's not how to do it.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
I don't know, you know, I'm not really regret would be if you're doing something over and over and keep fucking up and not learning from your mistakes. That's a regret.
Yeah.
But when you're doing things and trying to evolve as a person and be the best you and get better and learn.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, you know, when you're not 25, wink, wink, don't be a dumbass.
Yeah.
Try to be a positive influence on people. Try to affect people in a positive way.
Yeah.
Try to do the things that are working, and the things that aren't working, you ditch and avoid.
Yeah.
Even when you talk about like temperament, stuff like that. You know, I mean, I could be a very strong cup of coffee, and it takes a lot. It takes a lot of reflection to know how to handle situations.
Yes, sure.
Sometimes you handle a situation the wrong way, and then a few years later you go, "Oh, I've been here before,
Yes.
and this is how I'm going to handle it again." And
Yeah.
so maybe those regrets are opportunities to grow.
Yeah, I like that.
Maybe.
Yeah. And you have any daily rituals?
Do
Do you work out? Do you yoga? Anything like that?
I don't really do that. I kind of do a little.
You're in good shape, though.
I'm okay. You know, I'm okay. I'm a longtime vegetarian. I fell into being a
Nice, I
vegetarian
knew that.
because I started getting migraine headaches when I was in my early 20s. And I read a few books and I identified that for my body, it doesn't like processed things and meat and the hormones that they
You were
jack
ahead of the
into.
curve with that shit.
And I was way ahead of the curve,
tuned your
which is
body.
maybe why I look younger than I actually
Yeah.
am. You know what I mean? You go, wow, how old are you? You know,
look
so
really young.
I look really
You got a
young.
good hairline, too.
Yeah, thank you. And also, you know, also the thing is like, I've always kind of been on the younger side of the curve anyway. Like
You have a young energy. I love that.
and so that's a little bit one of those things where you know, daily habit.
Do we ever really grow up, though?
Did I?
Do we
No.
ever?
No.
I'm a big kid, too, man.
No,
Oh, fuck.
growing up's I think you get more responsibilities, but you
Yeah.
learn how to adapt
Totally.
with your spazziness.
Totally.
And just, you know, trying to do what you I don't know what you do. Would I, you know, I know that I just simply have become at peace with the fact that I'm very different.
Yeah.
You go, it is what it is. You try to do you know, try to do the good things and just keep blasting forward.
I think we're all different, and that's why we ended up being part of the music we're a part of and the scene we're a part of. You know what I mean?
It's yes, and there's some kind of there's some kind of magnet maybe that draws you to that, like, here's where I'm not going to say weirdos, but here's where the people that are maybe a little bit more open-minded or a little, you know, I grew up in a very liberal household, playing in Southern California, punk rock with a very liberal audience. So I'm exposed. I'm like really have very, very broad peripheral of how to accept people.
Yeah.
Where it's amazing to me when you see people that are really narrow-minded.
It's crazy, man.
It's like, wow. Did I grow up in a bubble? Or it's almost hard for me to identify. It's hard for me to put myself in those shoes.
Yeah.
Because I have such different context.
Yeah.
To growing up in Southern California and growing up in punk rock in Southern California.
Yeah.
There's all different ways of doing it.
But you got that fucking Queens, or that Queens roots
yes,
too.
It's true.
What part of Queens you're
Forest Hills.
Oh shit.
Forest Hills Hospital.
That's
I was born in a
awesome.
Forest Hills Hospital. True.
Damn.
True story.
There's
True.
a lot of people in Forest. That's amazing. I mean,
It's true.
I didn't know about that about you at all.
It's true.
Man. I love that. That's like your New York fucking.
I don't. Maybe,
You're a New York hardcore baby.
See, I don't know. That's
Queens is cool. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's a. I'm trying to work on a show there right now.
Oh, you are Queens?
Yeah, I'm working on one.
Did you get in touch with Jake?
Yeah.
Did he hit you back?
No.
Oh, we're making the show.
But that's a whole other story. But I'm.
No, we're gonna talk about that. That's my boy.
But I am trying. So for the people that, I guess there's some people here that are music people.
Yeah.
And you're like, great, hi, music people. And then there might be other people that are just, they want to connect more on the positive message.
Yeah.
And for those people, I say, hello, nice to meet you. I'm Doug. Thank you for taking time in your life to allow us to have this conversation. I hope you're well in your space, in your life, and wherever you are. That's great. That's cool. Do good things. Try to be a good person.
Yeah.
Hopefully, thank you for taking time to have let this conversation be part of your mind space.
Yeah, like
that's
that.
Really cool. It's
Yeah.
really cool because I know you have a lot of other things. You could be doing Netflix and chill, or you could be doing other things. So thanks for letting us talk.
Yeah.
And then for the music nerds, you go, dude, I'm a music nerd. Text me, I'll try to give you the answer.
Yeah.
But I get calls or I get texts and emails all the time. People, when are you playing fill in the blank?
Yeah.
When are you playing fill in the blank? Believe me, we're trying to get to all the spaces.
Now the listeners know this guy does everything.
I do
He's doing
everything.
it all, man.
And so here's one. For all the people in Boston, I'm trying to get up to Boston, but something is really weird in Boston with the way they're doing the venues and stuff. So it's a little bit of a challenge. We are going to get there. We're going to get to every city. I am not a shy person when it comes to like getting on the phone or emails or texts.
Yeah.
And so if you have a venue that you think I should go to, reach out, talk. It's cool. Let me know.
Even
and
DM you on Instagram. And
easy
start
breezy.
Conversation.
Easy breezy. Yeah. I'm incredibly user friendly. And we're not like, not doing one city versus another.
Yeah.
It's like, we're going to get to all of them. In fact, there's a reason why I'm not going to Vegas. And that reason has to do with something at the end of May. Wink, wink. So just believe me, I know where you are. We want to get to those cities, but we're pacing it all out.
Amazing. I know exactly what it is, and I might be there with you too.
We're pacing it all out.
Might be doing it together.
You never know.
Well, I want to thank you for all the music you've been a part of that inspired
Thank
my
you.
childhood. I have several tattoos of the bands you've been in. The Sour Grapes thing blew me away today. It's one of my favorite songs.
Thank
so
you.
The fact that you're part of that, I thank you for that.
Thank you.
And all the music, all the shit you contributed to the world, everything you've done for music and continue to do. And I'm really excited about Field Day being back. And I appreciate you calling you a friend. It was great reconnecting with you a couple months ago. Now we're playing together. Just everything you've done with your life, I appreciate it, and the world appreciates it. Even though it was something you do with your friends and it wasn't a career thing, it wasn't everything we talked about. It meant a lot to a lot of people, inspired a lot of people in this world, and you should be very proud of that shit.
Thank you. When you drop the pebble in the pond, it's amazing to see how far out the ripples go.
Yes.
And here you are, several decades later, and people still love it, and right back at you. Thank you to the people who took a chance and was like, oh, wow, that looks like a weird record. Let's listen to Dag Nasty. Or, oh, wow, let's listen. So thank you to the people for being open-minded and supporting live music. Support live music.
Yes.
Live music. It's, people want to entertain you, and those who still go out and buy tickets to shows and stuff like that. Thank you. That's
Yeah.
huge. It's crazy. We're in a world. The restaurant world is going to change. You know, ladies and gentlemen, the restaurant world is going to change because less people want to go out and they want food brought into them.
Uber Eats.
Where, you know, I think you and I doing a living room show might be a little bit of a challenge, you know? So you got to come to the club if you want to.
That's true.
But there you go.
I think people always want to see live bands and they always want to go out and experience that. I think that's one thing that's hopefully still sacred, that people go out and see bands and want to support, get the energy, you know? I think that's really important. You can't get that off YouTube and you can't get that off television. It's something that's, I don't know, something special.
Absolutely.
Sweating with the band and shit, so.
There you go.
All right, so guys, November 23rd, Field Day, Ignite, H2O in Orange County at the Living Room. A very small venue, no barricades, small ass stage. It's going to be fun. Fucking awesome.
Whoa. So, yeah, be there.
And then check out the, Field Day Sounds for all their dates.
Yes. That's the easiest way. Anywhere, like I'd say Facebook is probably the most common denominator. So in Facebook, Field Day Sounds, that's how you can reach the band, see the dates.
This was 3 hours. It's so fucking
Was
awesome.
it really?
We can do part 1 and part 2. It's awesome.
The gift of gab.
I could talk to this dude all day long. It was
the
really
gift
awesome,
of
man.
gab.
So many
See,
great stories.
we're gonna stop recording and then continue talking.
This coffee fucked me up.
There
Thank
you
you
go.
so much, Doug. I appreciate it.
All right, I'll talk to you.
Okay, bye. Hey guys, thanks for listening. Please rate, review, subscribe. If you haven't subscribed yet to this podcast, please do that. And whatever platform you are listening to this on, I'm glad you found me. You can rate me and review me on there also. So thank you guys sincerely for the support. I cannot wait for you guys to the next one.